right, well, welcome to the Financially Unbreakable podcast. I guess it's a podcast. I don't know. It's going to be whatever we want it to be. Where we're going to just kind of make things a little bit easier for you to understand and kind of take you behind the scenes and show you the thinking behind the money, I guess, right? Yeah?
That's
You want to do that?
Yeah. That's why we named it Financially Unbreakable. Just to, what we see now is that people have what we call yo-yo retirement.
You're on your own, baby.
And,
You're on your own.
What are
I got it. I got that from Ed Slott.
Yeah.
Ed Slott, who was like the number one accountant in the country, wrote a great book called The Retirement Savings Time Bomb. And that Retirement Savings Time Bomb is probably one of the best books I ever read about retirement planning. But he used that, the yo-yo retirement plan.
Yep.
And it really is true.
Right, for sure. Yeah, I mean, that's what we see every day as we deal with folks. You're truly on your own. You're left to build your own pension.
Yep.
And, just like if you took the three of us and plopped them into a hospital and said to perform surgery, we'd fail miserably. Yeah. A lot of people just really aren't well equipped to deal with the yo-yo retirement.
Yeah, could you imagine actually doing your own surgery?
No. Well, that's the problem.
Let me, give me all the information on my heart.
Yeah.
I'll go in and do it.
We'll
I feel like that's, I shouldn't say everybody. I mean, the majority of the public is looking for help. There's a group of do-it-yourselfers out there.
There are, but that's what happened is the pension. It went away.
Yeah.
And the 401k was handed over with no instruction guide of here's how to handle it moving forward. Just put money in this 401k, we'll give you a match, and figure it out.
Yep.
And what we always see is because, it used to be you hit X amount of years of service time and then you retired. And it really didn't make sense to keep working. You know, if you did the math, if you were making $80,000 a year and you hit your service time and you were paid a pension of $60,000 a year, you basically were working for $20,000 a year, which didn't make sense. So you knew you were retiring. And because of the yo-yo retirement, what we frequently see is people continuing to push back their retirement because they're on their own. They don't know if they have enough. They don't know how much they can spend from it.
Right.
They don't want to run out of money, so the date keeps moving further and further.
The only people that still have kind of a retirement date are teachers, law enforcement.
Yeah.
I mean, those are really the only professions I know of that have a date in which they can retire. Military too.
Right.
But any other profession, there's no. It's like, well, have I saved enough in the 401k?
Right.
But there's no definitive date now.
No.
Right.
And what do all of those industries have in common? Pension.
Yes.
And that just brings certainty. You know exactly what's going to come in. You can plan for what goes out. But with the 401k, everyone's running the race of how much do I need? What number do I need to save? How big does this account need to get to? And people don't know.
Right.
Well, in the book, Right Track Your Retirement, I mean, we wrote about, the 3 different interest rates that people need to know about, which is the spend down rate, the preservation rate, and the legacy rate, which is mind-blowing to me, how many people come in that have advisors that they're not even talking about those types of things. They're talking about their investment strategy. But that's far from a retirement strategy. I mean, literally retirement planning is not about the investments you own. It's literally about how can I stop working and replace my paycheck.
Right. Yeah, and a lot of times when you shift from accumulation to distribution, we show them those 3 different rates. You don't need a substantial rate to be successful in retirement.
I wish more people understood that, man. I
I
really do. I took a lot of heat because, I was building retirement plans off of fixed annuities at, 3 and 4%.
Right.
But it worked.
Right.
Because they didn't have to take the risk. I could get them the cash flow.
They
Right.
didn't lose money.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and then of course, rates have obviously changed, but you go back 10 years ago, that's how I was building it.
Well, I had a guy come in just recently, and I showed him if we took everything, not that this is exactly what we would do, but if we took everything and put it in a fixed rate,
Yeah.
he would take all of the income he needed for his life, his wife's life, and double his money over a 30-year
That's right.
And all he needed was 5% to do that, which
Right.
he can get guaranteed.
Yeah.
But his broker was telling him, we need to take risk with all this money and
That's crazy.
average 10% to be successful.
What do they say the market average is right now?
Between 9 and 10.
The real average.
That's what I want to
That's
talk
the
about.
question,
Yeah.
right? Because you know how they calculate those averages, right? They just add up all the returns and divide by the number of years, but
Right.
you don't actually get a real average. I mean, at our educational events, we do a slide where we show two different examples of sequence in the markets and withdrawing money. And the one example, the woman runs out of money, but yet if you add up all her averages over a 20-year period of time, she's averaged 6.25%. So that sounds like a pretty decent average.
That's the Jill and Bill story,
That's
right?
the Jill and
Right.
Bill, and,
Yeah.
and she runs out of money. And,
Yeah.
and why is that? Right? So
How
it's
can
not
you
about the
average
rate of return.
6%
Take
and
out 4.
take out 4 and run out of money?
Right.
That's it. But
You know, Dave Ramsey makes it that easy.
his
And
rates are a lot higher.
yeah, he says
Right.
you just earn 8.
Earn 12 and
No,
take 8.
Yeah, earn
Yeah.
12, take 8.
Earn
They've done
12, take
studies
8.
on that, and they said that if you use that strategy, you have a 3% chance of success in retirement.
Is that right?
So if you take out 8% per year, which is what Dave suggests, you have a 3% chance of success.
There's an unbelievable video out there where he is arguing with one of his main, I guess, proteges. I mean, apprentices. You know, it's a I can't remember the guy's name, but he's kind of taken over for Dave. And a caller had called in and asked about the rate of return that they should be withdrawing, and so he mentioned 3%. He said I wouldn't take any more than 3%, and here's why. And Dave's like, that's craziness. You can take way more than 3%. You can
Right.
take like 8% out and not even have a problem.
Yep.
And you're like, Dave, that would be like in a perfect world if you averaged 8%. I mean, if you got an 8% rate of return, like getting an 8% rate of return every year is very different than averaging 8%, because an average could be up 15, down 2, up 10, right?
Well, and
Up
this,
3.
I think where a lot of this is coming from is the market has been so good for the past 2 decades. Outside of 2008, 2018, there was a slight drop in 2022. 15 of the past 17 years have been positive,
Yeah.
and a lot of them double-digit returns. That's not normal. If you look back the past 150 years, seeing that strong of a bull run is not normal. So
Yeah.
people see this and they say, "Why would I take safety?"
And when you say the market, you mean the equity market.
Right.
Yeah,
Because,
right.
you know,
Yes.
The bond market has been the opposite of
Horrible.
the equity market.
How bad's the bond market been?
Well, I mean, I'll give you an example. I had a couple that worked, wanted to kind of minimize their fees and their cost, and went with Vanguard, and basically doing it themselves. Had a little bit of guidance, but very, very low cost, very conservative folks, and they bought the bond mutual fund BND, and in their first 4 years of retirement, they've been pulling a lot of money out because they're not Social Security age yet, so they're having to withdraw a little bit more, and they're down like $400,000 in their first 4 years of retirement
With a bond strategy.
because so much money
Right.
is in that BND, and that BND over the past 5 years is down over 1%
Yeah.
each and every year.
Can you explain what BND is?
So BND is just a pooled group of bonds.
Yeah.
Right? Now, in my opinion, if you're going to use bonds, you want to use individual bonds.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
So
Right.
let's just hypothetically
Buying an
say
individual bond from
Secure
Verizon.
Money Advisors.
From
right?
Secure Money Advisors.
Right, so
yeah.
say Secure
Well, we want it
Money-
to be publicly traded.
yeah, right.
We
All
don't
right,
need
so
problems
we'll
with the
say
SEC.
Verizon. We'll say Verizon. So you buy a bond from
Yeah.
Verizon, you loan them $100,000.
Yeah.
There's a time period attached to that $100,000 that you loan Verizon, and let's say that they pay you 4%, right? So 4%, you're getting $4,000 every year in interest, right? Now, if you allow that bond to go to maturity, will you ever lose money?
Nope.
The answer is no,
Mm-mm.
right? And each and every year, you could even withdraw your $4,000 and use it as income. Now, what happens though if 1 year you need $12,000?
Right.
So the $4,000 isn't enough. You need 12.
Yeah.
So you have to get $8,000 of additional money, you would have to sell off some of your bond position.
Yep.
The challenge when you're selling off that bond is where's the interest rate environment?
Right.
Because if now they're offering 5% to people to invest with a debt instrument, well, no one wants your 4% bond.
Right.
So what do you think you're going to have to do? You're going to have to sell it at a loss.
Yes.
Right? So I do like individual bonds because it can be pretty predictable for you. But a bond fund like BND, it's a bunch of pooled debt instruments, and you don't really know if it's going to be up or down.
Right. And then they're buying and selling. You don't have control over that. The bond fund manager is buying and selling to keep up with what's going on. And that interest
I have never in my 25 years have ever seen a bond fund do spectacular. Never. I mean, this is
what's
why.
the best case scenario for a bond fund? Truly the best case scenario. Maybe 5%.
Yeah, maybe 5. Maybe.
But you got to look at what's the expense ratio of that bond fund.
Yeah.
What's the advisor's cost of that bond, of putting you in that bond fund?
I don't think a lot of people take that into account when they look at, it depends on what the mutual fund prospectus says, right? But, is the fee that they're showing on there actually, the rate of return they're showing on there is at net of fees.
Right.
I don't know. All these mutual fund companies operate differently.
I would say too, the bulk of the time when folks come in, if you even ask, do you know the difference between a stock and a bond? Probably 90% don't know the difference.
That's true. But this is why I literally in 2004 went to annuities, because if I looked at a stock, there was all these what if scenarios.
Right.
If this happened, what if this happened, whatever. There was just too many variables. Right. And then you go to the bonds, you look at the same thing. Interest rates up, your bond price is down, interest rates down, your bond price is up, right? I mean, just too many variables for me to feel comfortable going back to a client each year and honestly looking them in the eyes and saying that you're going to be okay. Because the thing that pissed me off about this industry was the fact that none of these advisors have any problem staring somebody in the eyes telling them that they're going to be fine, when in fact they know 100%.
Right.
They don't know.
Well, they don't know.
They don't know.
And the client side.
They don't know, but you're basically saying I've got a crystal ball, you're going to be fine. Like, how do you know that? You don't know what the market's going to do, and there's no guarantees built into what I have. I couldn't imagine retiring like that. I just couldn't.
Absolutely not. And what if they're wrong? What if the advisor's wrong and they're not okay? Well, they signed a 40, 60, 80-page disclosure that said, if this doesn't work out,
can't sue me.
Can't sue me.
Right.
There's nothing you can do about it.
We use the analogy of commission versus salary.
Yes.
Right? So if you think about it, the bulk of people want certainty in their life. Right? It's really, really important to people. And, if you ask people, hey, would you prefer to work on commission-based performance, or would you like a guarantee in the form of a salary?
Right.
The bulk of people are going to choose a salary.
Yeah.
Right? So if you offered someone a job and said, hey, we'll pay you $100,000 in salary, you take this position, or the alternative is you go to commission, you might make $175,000, you might make $24,000. We all know.
Right.
Based on your performance.
Yeah. And that's how people are building their retirement.
People are picking the certainty, right? But yes, a lot of people are.
Well, if you have a 401k and you retire and all you do is roll it over and you diversify it in the market, I mean, basically you're saying I'm willing to accept a commission check in retirement. I don't a commission structure. I don't know what I'm going to make. I may make a lot of money. I may make nothing. Most people, I think, me included, your best thing that you can get when you're employed is salary plus commission. And if you think about it, the way that we built things in our 2-bucket approach with the guarantee from the annuity and then the market money, you basically have salary plus commission. Right? And that's a much better deal. Because worst case scenario, if the commission didn't work out because you didn't have a good sales cycle, right? At least you have your salary to fall back on.
Right.
Exactly.
And that's really the annuity and the market.
Well, and that's one of our core beliefs is you need to have your non-discretionary income predictable. Whenever you retire, that paycheck stops, but the bills, taxes, insurances, all the things that you need each and every year don't stop. You can't call Duquesne Light and say, sorry, the market's down this month. I'm not going to be able to pay you. I mean, you can. They'll just cut your power off. Right? So you need to have that predictability coming in. And Social Security, it's great that it's a piece that's there, but it's not meant to make up all of your income. Right. What is it? 40% of your income is what that's supposed to make.
You know, we were in where were we? New Orleans for our awards, right? And we were sitting with one of the other firms that we actually have a relationship with, and one of the advisors that works there was telling us he used to be at Morgan Stanley he was at, or
it was one of the big box ones.
Chase. Was he at Chase? At Chase? I can't remember. But anyway, he was telling us he wasn't even allowed to talk about certain things, but yet they were advising people on their market strategy, right? But they weren't allowed to talk about taxes. They weren't allowed to talk about annuities. They weren't allowed to talk about life insurance. Right. And you're going, how can you honestly tell someone that you're an advisor when you have all of those blind spots?
Right.
Yeah.
Because to me, I want the person that knows the entire market of everything when it comes to instruments that I can use for my money.
For sure.
Well, because they all tie into one another too. All of those different pieces.
Correct.
You know, your health care is impacted by your income. Your taxes impact your income. So you need to have somebody that understands each piece to the retirement.
Well, this is why we've worked so hard to really become a one-stop shop for everybody with, you know, income planning, you know, market planning, right? Health insurance, life insurance, estate planning documents, because all of that is your retirement plan, not just one of those.
Right.
There's 5 areas, and I think the big box firms have oversimplified what retirement is all about. People just think, I roll it over, I diversify it in some investments, and I'm going to be fine. But that doesn't make that person a specialist in income planning. Right. It doesn't make them a specialist in understanding Social Security or understanding your estate at death and the taxes you're going to get caught up in paying at death if things aren't done correctly. You know, I mean, it's a very different world at the big box firms than it is with your true fiduciary advisor.
Right.
Although, you know, I love the word fiduciary these days because it's worded as like a badge of honor. You know, and I love how some of these firms will talk about the fact that, you know, they don't charge commissions. And I'm like, how can you be a fiduciary and not charge commissions? Because if I recommend a life insurance policy to you, I don't have the choice of getting a fee for that.
Right.
I only from the insurance company, they're going to pay us a commission. No different than the guy that sells me my car insurance or homeowner's insurance. He gets a commission. It's not like he can go, you know what, keep the commission. I want my client to get a bigger death benefit or a better rate or whatever. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
Same thing with Medicare, right? I mean, you get paid commission. Annuities, you get paid commission. But if you're a fiduciary, that means your job is to do what's in the best interest of the client. But if you're only charging a fee, that means you're only working with market money. Right. So how do you consider yourself a fiduciary?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think really what a fiduciary's primary purpose is to provide a positive outcome.
Yeah.
It's not to pick your investments. It's what's the outcome going to look like in those 5 areas that you just talked about.
Yes.
And what we constantly see people coming in is the focus has just been on the investments. Now, fortunately for these folks, the bulk of the time, the investments have performed pretty well because of what you had talked about with the market conditions. But that doesn't mean you have a good plan in place.
Right.
It's typically the opposite. A lot of times what happens is people are coming in, they're nearing that RMD age, and now all of a sudden they got good returns, but they never did any proactive tax planning. And now they're realizing, oh shoot, I think I have a problem. Love my guy. He's my friend. But now I have a problem. Maybe I need to go seek out somebody else's.
So let's talk about that, because I think that's a strong point that you're making. You know, you get someone that maybe doesn't need to take any money from their retirement accounts, so they can probably take more risk than the average person, right? That needs income.
Yep.
But they're setting themselves up for a huge problem down the road, because at 73, you've got to start taking these distributions out, whether you want to or not. So. Imagine over that period of time, maybe you retire at 62 or whatever. So over this 10 to 12 year period, right, you double your money. You go from $1 million to $2 million. But now it's all in your IRA account. And now the IRS is going to tell you that you've got to take out well over $100,000 a year.
Right.
And it's going to affect your Medicare, right? I mean,
it affects you in multiple ways. Like you said, it's going to affect your Medicare because now your IRMA level is going to go up, and You need to pay more each and every month for your cost of health insurance. Also your tax rates. So your other income sources are going to go down because you need to pay more taxes on those. And what happens if the market's going down when you're 73, 74?
And you're
Now
taking
you're pulling
forced
money
withdrawals.
So now you're not letting that money compound anymore. Compound interest only happens when it's undisturbed, when there is no withdrawals coming out. So all three of those are impacted: your investments, your income, your taxes, and your health care.
And we live in Pittsburgh,
Yeah.
right? It's a pretty conservative town. You know, people can typically get by on a fairly reasonable amount of income. And what people don't realize is a lot of times they have a lot of wiggle room at a 12% tax rate, which is a very, very favorable tax rate. I mean, the federal tax rates are very favorable, period, right now.
Yeah, right. Best we've ever seen them.
And they have a lot of room to do some tax planning in that 12%, but yet they failed to do it, and now they hit that big problem at 73.
You think it's just because their current advisors are just lazy? I mean, what do you? I mean, because a lot of people, I mean, sometimes they're not even aware of the fact that they have this.
Or
they can do it.
Maybe it's what you said before. Maybe they're not allowed to talk about.
I'm curious about that. Are they even allowed to talk about the tax planning?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I came from the big box firm, so I know there was limitations on what you could talk about. And so anytime there was a tax question, we were taught to just say, go talk to your tax accountant.
Right.
You know, because we couldn't give any advice.
Right.
You know, now we're not signing off on tax returns, but we can give general advice around tax strategy.
Correct.
You know, which makes a difference for somebody. You know, you talk about RMDs putting you into another tax bracket, right? Because now you've got to take this forced distribution, and then on top of that, that gets added to your current income that you've been getting from Social Security, and maybe you have a pension too, right? So now that gets added together, bumps you up in another tax bracket, and then you die, and then your spouse gets put into a single filer tax bracket, which skyrockets their tax bracket, and people don't think about that one either. They get killed.
I have a client this just happened to. Her husband passed. She's 78 years old. And now, because of all his IRA money that they didn't do tax planning with prior to working with us, that moved over to her. And she has to take massive required minimum distributions that she doesn't need. And what she's doing is she's taking them because she wants to be safe. And she's been putting them into CDs, which is creating interest. That's more
which is compounding it even more.
She doesn't know what to do now. And now she's in the single filer bracket. And
which basically the rates was cut in half.
Exactly.
Single filer was cut in half. So you're still gonna have to take that RMD, but the tax rates, the brackets have been cut in half. So it becomes a major problem. And that's another thought that we see mistakes is having the right investments in the right places. Right? Do you have your IRAs kind of geared towards building you cash flow because that's the best money you can use as cash flow? Do you have your Roth IRAs more geared towards long-term growth investments? Do you have your non-retirement, more geared towards long-term growth investments, not kicking off a bunch of interest and dividends and capital gains, too, right?
Yes.
So that's a little gotcha there that we see frequently, where people have their non-retirement funds in these mutual funds, and because of the redemptions, they're getting a capital gain every year.
Yeah.
So now
I always ask people if they own a mutual fund. You ever lose money in a mutual fund and have to pay taxes?
Right.
That's fun.
Right.
Because that happens.
Yes.
Because of those redemptions.
Yeah. So a lot of times those redemptions happen, and you're getting this income you had no clue that's about to kick off.
Yes.
But you're also an RMD category, which is causing you more problems. Or maybe you're doing tax planning, wanting to stay in a certain bracket or under the IRMA thresholds, and now you have an unexpected.
And that income that they're getting from these mutual funds, it's not income they're taking and putting in their pocket. It's income that's being reinvested back into that mutual fund. That's going to do the same thing over and over again, kicking off these distributions.
I don't think the average person truly understands how unique we are. Right? How unique we are compared to the rest of the industry. Because, what I've heard since the day I opened Secure Money Advisors back in 2007 is, why has nobody talked to me about this stuff? I mean, how many times do you guys hear that?
All the time.
Yeah.
Daily.
Daily.
Yes. They're shocked when they get done meeting with us because nobody's ever opened their eyes to all of these things. And one, I think it's poor training at the big box firms because I worked there, I know. There was really no training. I don't know about any of the other big box firms, but one I specifically worked at, there was no training. I mean, I think they taught us what a mutual fund was, and that was about it. You know, and you felt more like a salesperson than you did a problem solver. And you know, it's taken us years to perfect our strategy here at Secure Money Advisors, and all the spreadsheets we use to do the problem solving. I mean, that took years to develop, to properly demonstrate to people what's really happening to their money, because the softwares couldn't do it.
No.
Even the best softwares like eMoney and you know, Holistiplan, all these fancy softwares you can buy as a financial planner, they're garbage.
Right, and they print off a 40 to 50 page packet with pie charts and bar graphs. And you know, the running joke is people bring them in and I say, can you walk me through this? What does this mean? They say, I have no idea.
Right.
And I think that's the problem, and the compliment we get all the time is not only why has nobody talked to me about this, but why has nobody shown it to me this way before?
Made it this simple.
This simple.
I know.
It's easy to understand.
Because I can trust it, actually.
Exactly.
Right? The 40-page book where you're telling me how much small cap I have, it doesn't mean anything to the average person, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
But to be able to break
you have
it down,
overlap.
Right.
Like, what does that mean to the average person? The average person just wants to know how much money is coming in each year based on growth, how much money is going out, and how much am I paying in taxes, and how much is left over. I mean, it's really that simple.
Right.
But there's a lot to think about when it comes to how much money's coming in, how much money's going out, and how much am I paying in taxes.
Exactly.
Because you've got IRAs, Roth IRAs, non-retirement accounts, life insurance. 4 things that I just named there that are all taxed differently.
Yeah, Social Security income.
Social Security income.
Yep.
5 things all taxed differently.
Right. Yeah, I wonder if, you know, the big box firm advisors use these retirement planning softwares maybe to make it more complicated so they feel that, hey, I don't know what I'm doing, you take it. You just handle it for me.
Yeah.
Versus if they used simple spreadsheets that we do to help people understand the work we're doing, maybe they feel that people would just do it on their own instead of using an advisor.
The most difficult client to get was always your analytical software engineer, or you know, civil engineer, or bridge engineer. It didn't matter. If they were analytical, they were a tougher client to acquire, and the reason was because their brains work like a spreadsheet.
Yeah, like a flow chart.
You know, they can't make decisions based off of a brochure.
Hypothetical.
Or a hypothetical.
Yeah.
There's got to be, you know, if you tell an engineer that this room is 15 feet wide, they're going to know, they're going to go over there and they're going to know it's 15.2. It has, and that's the way that we're building our plans. I mean, we're building it not in a general sense like it's 15 feet wide. No, it's 15.2.
Right.
Now, we're detailed like that, but we're simple. And I think that's why we've acquired so many engineers and as clients, because
It's our easiest client.
it's actually our easiest client to acquire because
they
we're truly problem solving for people. You know, whereas prior to me starting Secure Money, I felt like I felt like I was really selling people. I had to really sell people on the concept. Where now, I just feel we're sitting down with people, walking them through their spreadsheet, and rolling up our sleeves and problem solving with them, and helping them become financially unbreakable, which is what we do here on this podcast. We help you become financially unbreakable and make sure that you can understand the thinking behind the strategies, because at the end of the day, you should know a little something about what you're doing. And you should have a general idea, because, you know, I'm tired of meeting people that go, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I've seen people that have no financial experience, zero, that hated financial talk, now saying, I truly understand my plan with you guys at Secure Money. But our job is to make people financially unbreakable. That's what we're doing every single day, and we're going to continue to do that. So we'll see you again on the next podcast of Financially Unbreakable.